He uses something that he claims to be obvious to refute something that he claims to be unobvious. However, the existence of God is not obvious at all unless there is an absolute objective and universal moral standard. And we know this standard so that we can make evaluations with it. Since the non-Christian fails to establish such a standard, and since he fails to establish how he would know such a standard, all his talk about evil is unintelligible and meaningless, and his argument from the problem of evil has no effect against Christianity. In fact, on the basis of his worldview, even he does not know what his own argument means. One who denies the existence of God has no rational basis to affirm the existence of evil. The recognition of God logically precedes the recognition of evil. Unless God is presupposed, evil remains undefined. When the non-Christian uses the problem of evil to argue against Christianity, he becomes an intellectual terrorist, so that he hijacks the moral absolute of Christianity, even as he argues against Christianity. However, he cannot refer to any natural or moral evil without explicitly acknowledging a standard by which to judge something as evil. If he acknowledges the existence of evil, then he must first acknowledge the existence of God. But if he already acknowledges the existence of God, then the argument from the problem of evil is pointless. Of course, the non-Christian may not immediately surrender, but he will probably try to offer some workable definition of evil to rescue his argument. We cannot consider all the possible definitions that he might propose, but I have provided enough material here so that anyone should be able to refute any non-Christian definition. If the Christian will persistently demand justification for the unbeliever's claims and definitions, he will frustrate any attempt to construct an argument against Christianity based on the existence of evil. Some non-Christians have came to realize that the argument from the problem of evil is invalid, so that although they continue to challenge the Christian faith based on the existence of God, they have softened their claim. So they say that although the existence of evil does not logically contradict the existence of God, the existence of evil at least provides strong evidence against God's existence or against the probability of God's existence. Thus, indeed, instead of calling their argument a logical case against God's existence, they call it an evidential case against God's existence. Continuing, Vincent Chung, The Problem of Evil. But this is nonsense. It is just a dishonest way of saying that they have no argument. All the problems that I raised about the logical case remain in the evidential case. The argument still fails to establish that the love of God contradicts the existence of evil, or that the love of God requires him to destroy evil, or to have destroyed evil. It still fails to define the crucial terms: what is love? What is evil? In fact, the argument makes things worse for the non-Christian by adding the idea of evidence to the debate. Now I demand from the several additional things a definition of evidence, a standard for determining what constitutes evidence towards or against something, a standard for determining the relevance and force of the alleged evidence, and an epistemology for discovering the things that are used as evidence. Along with the evidential case, some people include the claim that there is too much gratuitous evil, and that this is evidence against God's existence. But again, what is evidence, and who decides what is gratuitous? By what standard of necessity do we decide that an evil event is unnecessary? And unnecessary for what? And why does evil have to be necessarily in the first place? In the biblical worldview, when God does something, it is justified just because he has decided to do it. Thus, the non-Christian cannot argue against the Christian faith by appealing to unjustified events, since he must first refute the Christian faith before he can show that these events are unjustified. So the non-Christian argues against the Christian idea of God by using a non-Christian definitions of love, evil, evidence, necessity, and other key terms. Then why not also argue against the non-Christian idea of God, and leave us out of the debate altogether? The argument from the problem of evil is best used by non-Christians against non-Christians. Other worldviews, there is no reason for lengthy explanations and repetitions. since the matter is as simple as it appears. The argument from the problem of evil is one of the most irrational arguments ever devised, and it is used by the most stupid individuals, but it has deceived and troubled many people because of an emotional pill. In response, the Christian must not only neutralize the argument, but he must pursue and attack the non-Christian on this topic. Perhaps because the problem of evil is most often used as a challenge to the Christian faith, many people forget to consider whether non-Christian worldviews and religions can provide adequate and coherent answers about the existence of evil. Can non-Christians provide an authoritative definition of evil? Does their definition of evil contradict what they claim about physics, natural evil, and psychology, moral evil? Can they explain how and why evil began and continues? Can they suggest a solution for evil? And can they guarantee that this solution will succeed? No worldview except the Christian faith can even begin to answer these challenges. When a non-Christian confronts you with the problem of evil, instead of being pressed into a corner, you should be able to give an invincible answer. But do not stop there. You should turn the argument against the non-Christian and ceaselessly pursue him back and attack him with 2 Corinthians 10:5. Run him off the cliff and make him regret ever mentioning it. I have demonstrated that the existence of evil does not contradict the love of God or the existence of God. In fact, the very concept of evil presupposes the existence of God. This God decreed and caused the existence of evil for his glory, and every aspect and instance of evil is under the precise control, and there is no standard higher than God to judge him as unrighteous. One day he will banish all sinners to endless torments in hell, so that every instance of murder, theft, rape, and even every word that a man has spoken will be accounted for. He will justly punish all sinners who have not trusted Jesus Christ for salvation, but his chosen ones will surely be saved through faith. What about you, huh? How do you explain evil? How do you deal with it? Given your worldview, how can you even have a meaningful and universal concept of evil? How do you explain its origin and continuation? Can you offer an effective or even a guaranteed solution to defeat evil? Can you set forth universally applicable and binding reasons against such things as genocide and racism? How can your worldview make moral demands on someone that does not subscribe to this worldview? Given your worldview, is there final and perfect justice for anyone? If not, what is your solution or explanation for what? How can you define justice in the first place? Why must a person from another nation or culture recognize your so-called rights? You question me. You think I cannot question you, huh? Answer me. If you cannot answer these and thousands of other questions that I have for you on the basis of your worldview and your intellectual commitments without spouting self-contradictions, arbitrary and unjustified assertions, and meaningless terms and propositions, then it is evident that while the existence of evil poses no threat to the Christian faith, it means the destruction of your pathetic and ridiculous non-Christian worldview or religion. You are a fool and a hypocrite for even mentioning the existence of evil as an objection to Christianity. You should hate yourself and apologize for wasting my time for slandering the Christian faith. Although many people enjoy confronting Christians with the problem of evil, the truth is that the Christian faith is the only worldview in which the existence of evil does not present a logical problem. Nevertheless, Christians are often intimidated by non-Christian arguments. This is in part because they have not learned the refutations to these arguments, but also because they sometimes agree with the non-Christians, at least on the emotional level, but the fact that something causes an emotional disturbance in people does nothing to threaten the Christian faith itself. Nevertheless, the Bible addresses even the emotional aspect of the issue. You will keep in perfect peace him whose mind is steadfast because he trusts in you, Isaiah 26:3, and Psalm 73:16-17 says, When I tried to understand all this, it was oppressed to me, till I entered the sanctuary of God. Then I understand their final destiny. Only by embracing the Christian worldview can a person come to a rational position on the existence of evil. And only by entering the sanctuary of God can the topic cease to be oppressive. Only those who draw close to God can understand the reality of evil and retain emotional soundness. The Christian faith is true and is the only way to God and salvation. It is immune to intellectual attacks. It cannot be successfully challenged, but only studied and obeyed. If the non-Christian is so disturbed over the existence of evil, he can ask a Christian how to trust Jesus Christ for salvation. Or he can commit himself to a psychiatric ward where he may remain miserable under professional care. Oh, non-Christian, you are stupid. You are depressed. You are going insane. Still, you do not come to Jesus Christ for salvation, but you lash out against him in desperate rebellion. Look how far humanity has fallen, that it would produce a piece of garbage like you, but there is hope in Jesus. Come to him now. Call upon him in repentance, and he will save your foolish, wretched soul.
And ladies and gentlemen, if this hasn't been apparent enough, that God is sovereign, even over evil, uses evil, and is in control of all things, and works all things according to the counsel of his own will, Ephesians 1:11, I would listen to this over again or visit vincentcheung.com, VINCENTCHEUNG.com, and check out some of his other work. God bless you, and have a wonderful life.